Hey, it's Chris Doucher for GeekNerdNet.com. I am at the 2025 Calgary Expo, and I'm super excited to be joined by writer Jason Aaron.
How's it going?
Hey, man, it's going great. Thanks again for making time. Really appreciate it. From Thor to Absolute Superman. I know I'm jumping over a lot of titles, but there's so many, so forgive me. And Bug Wars. Congratulations on all your success and the awesome stories you've put out over the years.
Thanks. I'm genuinely still just having fun and doing stories that I want to see in existence. And thankfully, I've been able to build a career literally doing exactly that. Just doing books that speak to me and make me happy. And, fortunately for me, that has turned into books that seem to resonate with other people as well.
I love it. I was at your panel yesterday with Dan Slott on day 3 of the show, and obviously both of you being on Superman, very different ends of the spectrum of Superman, and I love that book, by the way. I don't mind. I'm a big fan. The whole Absolute line has been, in the very best possible way, exciting as hell, and I've been stoked to go. I go to the comic store anyway, but more stoked when these books have come out, in that when I'm reading the first couple issues of Absolute Superman when they first came out, blown away. So thank you, actually, for the storytelling. Talk about, I hope this doesn't sound cliche of a question for you. You've probably been asked a million times, so I apologize if you have. But that process of creating this new universe, right? And with the whole outside creative team that are on other books in the Absolute universe, how many iterations? Did you have a lot of iterations of, I think we can go this way, or let's try this, or we need to pull back here because of XYZ reason?
You mean just with Superman?
Yeah. It fits into the bigger Absolute universe, but your book specifically.
No, we really built all those books separately. Yeah. Absolute, for me, started with Scott Snyder calling me, and he had sort of ideas of doing an Absolute universe. He had thoughts on Batman, and kind of knew sort of what characters we should start with. He didn't know what book he wanted to write. I didn't know what book I wanted to write. Initially, we were just talking about the ideas of that universe, but I pretty quickly said, if I'm going to do this, I want to do Superman. And I think that version came together pretty quickly in my mind. Once I kind of decided on a couple key parts and what is this story about? A big part of the conversation Scott and I were having were about, okay, what if we were creating these characters now, in the present day? If there was never been a Superman, never been a Batman, we were making them up here and now. How would they look different? What choices would we make now that are different than what Siegel and Schuster did in 1939? What's the same? But even the stuff that's same, how are the connotations of that different in the present day? And for me, with Superman, that quickly became, this guy was created by the sons of immigrants. These 2 young Jewish kids in Cleveland. They created him as this sort of iconic, mythic Moses story. He was sort of the ultimate immigrant who fought to protect the oppressed, raised in this very idyllic setting in Kansas. So I'm if I'm doing kind of the ultimate immigrant story in the present day, how is that different? There's very different connotations in 2025 than the 1930s. So that was kind of my guiding light. And then I knew, as a part of that, I wanted him to have more of an immigrant identity and more Kryptonian identity. So I wanted him to be older when the planet blew up. So it's more tragic. Has more of an effect on him because he has a relationship with his parents. He's very much the last son of Krypton in that regard. And then when he comes here, I knew he needs to have a harder road. He is not warmly welcome when he lands in Kansas, and that his time there doesn't turn into him being raised by this kindly couple. So he's walking a much harder, more difficult path. He's a lot angrier than the young Superman we know. He's rougher and more raw around the edges. Once I had that kind of one piece, all those other parts really fell into place pretty easily.
Yeah, you know what? And I also love talk about a reimagining. right? And that's great storytelling, and when it works, and the marriage of art and color and writing. Your take on Lois Lane, I loved that. I'm like, of course, because she's the daughter of a military man, right? And that whole reveal in the book was, I love the reveal of the way you treated Clark's Superman, right? But that reveal to me was when we saw her dad for the first time. I'm like, holy crap, it's awesome. Like I like that direction and the way you're kind of starting to now bring it together. Is that something that, this sounds obvious, that excites you? Like, do you sit go, oh, that's it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think for sure, especially with this. I mean, I knew beyond just trying to do a modern retelling of Superman, I also wanted to do something to sort of subvert expectations, and with every piece of it, from his origin, which is one of the most told stories in comic book history, right, is the origin of Superman. And you can stop a random person on the street and they can tell you how that went. So it's like, okay, how do we do a version of that's still in the bare bones version is the same. It's like the planet blows up and he's the one survivor who gets away from that. That's the same. Everything other than that is different, so we can find ways to tweak that and surprise you and hopefully break your heart a little bit in the midst of a story that you know so well. And I think I wanted it to be the same once he comes to Earth. I didn't want to do, here's our bold, daring new take on Superman that starts with the Daily Planet, and here's Lois in the Daily Planet, and here's Lex Luthor as the bad guy, and here's all the things that you expect that you've seen in all the other different versions of Superman before. I was like, how do we... in my mind, every person we encounter in this world should be where they're quote unquote not supposed to be, right? Nothing has worked out the way it was meant to, That doesn't mean that we're changing things just to change things, but it's like, how do you, again, with Lois, it all makes sense in that, in the regular universe, she's got this a father who's a part of the military, and in this one we see it's not just because of his influence on her, but because he was wounded in battle and lost his legs, and he's got these advanced prosthetics that are from Lazarus Corp. So the company she's working for literally owns her father's legs, So you can understand why she kind of made the choices that she made. But from the moment she encounters Superman, she starts to realize something's wrong. Like, I'm wrong. Like, my life is wrong. And Superman will be the force that kind of starts to draw people back to who they're supposed to be.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that'll be like a simple equation or a simple journey.
Right.
Nothing is simple and easy for him. It's not going to be for Lois or Jimmy or Brainiac, any of the other characters that are arrayed around Superman.
And that's, you just hit it. That's what I love about the book, is that it's not easy, and that creates that challenge and actually gives you more depth in your storytelling. Like, okay, well, you know what? We're not going to make the easy pivot that everyone's expecting even, right? Now I want to go from the reimagined Superman universe to another universe of Bug Wars. Talk about that book, because I remember reading the first issue. I'm like, there's so many things happening in here in the best possible way, and it was so fun to dig into it and read about these different factions.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's my new creator-owned book. Me and Mahmoud Asrar, the guys who did Conan the Barbarian and King Conan for Marvel, us getting to kind of do our own creator-owned dark fantasy series, cut loose in a way we weren't always allowed to on Conan. So this is much more brutal, violent, more mature story than anything we've done together. It's strangely enough, for a book that's about a kid shrinking down and going on an adventure in his backyard, this is like a very personal story for me, and this is the origin of it goes back to really my origin story. And when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, in that age range, I was first discovering comics, first falling in love with them. The house we lived at in the backwoods of Alabama had this huge backyard and surrounded by woods, and I spent all my time back there running around that yard playing with my He-Man figures and Star Wars toys, running through those woods, making up elaborate fantasy sagas in my head, and I very much feel like I became a storyteller, fell in love with storytelling in that yard, and began my journey to like wanting to write comics someday. So this yard is that yard. Like the yard of Bug Wars is that same exact yard, my fictionalized version of it. But I drew the map, layout's the same, the house is the same. So it's set in like a fictional town in Alabama, very much modeled after my hometown. So it's a very personal story for me, and I think so many of the things that were sparking my young brain back then, from like Secret of Nim, The Littles on Saturday morning. It is.
Oh man.
Sword of the Atom was one of the first comics I ever read. Micronauts, Sectars, like all that stuff kind of went in the gumbo of what, basically it's a story that simmered in my mind for literally for 40 years until I got to the point of finding the right collaborator in Mahmoud, and us we've been working on for years now, kind of designing that world, building that world, him designing all the different factions of mites who are like the little bug warriors that you meet in the backyard. So on the one hand, I'm like, why did I wait so long to do this? Because I love this. I love this so much. I love going down the rabbit holes of figuring out names for the spider witches and the wasp raiders and just all the world building stuff. So I'm like, why I want to do this all the time. Why did I wait so long? Another part of me is like, I think I waited until the right time. I think I needed to do Thor before this. I needed to do Conan. I needed to kind of do those things before I could do my own version of this sort of fantasy world. And again, like being able to do it with Mahmoud and Matt Wilson and Becca Carey, who's our letterer and designers. We got a pretty stellar team involved, and so I'm really, really proud of this book. There's a lot that goes into it too, of like each issue's got back matter where I write sort of info pages on here's insights into the society of the maggot monks, and here's like all the different kinds of weird spiders that you'll find in the backyard, or I just wrote the one on the wasp, and wasps are incredibly disturbing, turns out. So you get a lot in each issue. I think it's a really, in my mind, a really cool package that we're putting together each month.
Awesome. I love it. Well, listen, Jason, I won't take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate all your time today. I appreciate your storytelling, everything you've done. I can't wait to see more, and I will read more, as everyone else will. So thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. Yeah, thank you.